It's down to the wire in the race for Charleston City Council's District 3 seat. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I sit down with one of the candidates, incumbent and current City Councilman James Lewis Jr., one-on-one. And if you haven't already, download my free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. And of course, subscribe as well. Councilman James Lewis Jr., welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Quintin, I'm glad to be here with you again. You do such a fabulous show throughout the city and the state. It's always a pleasure to sit down and talk with you.
Oh, thank you greatly. And it's a pleasure to sit down and talk to you right now because you're down to the wire when it comes to the race for District 3. And I'm wondering, as we sit here right now, what is it like to be you, James Lewis Jr., a current Charleston City Council member, and you also are an incumbent in this race?
Well, I like to be me because I am me, and I like to be in this race because this race is all about service, it's about serving the public. In order to be a public servant, you got to not only you got to love what you do, and I love what I do as a servant of District 3.
You talk about service. Let me take you to the Charleston Chronicle. And this is the headline written by writer Barney Blakely. He writes this: Lewis brings conscience, experience, and sensitivity to District 3 Council race. Let me read a portion of the article to you. It reads this: Charleston City Council District 3 incumbent councilman James Lewis Jr. says the November 5th municipal election in which he is seeking re-election is one he must win. Why now, Lou?
I must win this election because we have worked so hard, extra hard in the past few years to try to solve a problem that everyone seems to be talking about. Every candidate, it's flooding. Flooding has been here since I've been a little boy. I used to live on a street called Aiken Street back in the 60s. When it rained hard on Aiken Street, the water would come in our house. We would be sleeping in the bed, and water's on the floor in the house. So I know about flooding. A lot of these people just are experiencing flooding because now we have what you call sea level rise, and water is going places that have never gone before. But I've raised up around flooded streets in the peninsula.
You talk about where water never went before, and especially when you were growing up in the 60s. Where is the water going now in District 3 where it shouldn't go?
Well, in District 3, there are side streets. The water doesn't really go up when tides are high, but it floods a lot, like Hughie and King, like Rutledge and Simmons,
right.
Poplar Street,
Sure.
Streets like that now. It's just flooding, and it never really flooded before like that.
And I understand that obviously the city budget allocates money to go to the Hughie King Street location and its pumping station. Can you tell me exactly how much that is?
Well, how we got that money, they're building the low line around the railroad tracks.
Sure.
And it seems like for some reason they thought my vote wasn't going to come to help get that project off the ground. So I told them, if y'all want me to help y'all get this project done, to allocate some money to stop the flooding on the corner of Hughie and King, because the low line would go right across Hughie Street. And for some reason, I was able to persuade my colleagues, and I think we put somewhere around $40 million in the budget out of the east side TIF in order to get that flooding taken care of, because the low line is part of that that's going to be in the east side TIF. So this money is not coming out of the drainage fund, but it's coming out of the east side TIF.
Now, how much of the money is left in the TIF after you all take that out?
I don't think no one really knows what's in that particular TIF. We have so many different TIFs.
Sure.
And our CEO now is putting together how much money in each TIF, because that question has been asked by so many city councilmen. How much money in this TIF and that TIF and that TIF.
Sure. Now, obviously the pumping station's down in that particular area. How many pipes do you all want to use, and how many more do you need to have?
Well, that's up to the engineers. When you go underneath these streets, you just don't know what's under there. And we were told that some of the pipes in the street now is just too small to handle the amount of water that's coming in the city when it rains and flowing through these pipes. So between those pipes and maybe they may have to do a pump station, we don't know yet until they conclude the final report and put it out for bid.
And how much is that going to be for the city as far as bidding?
Well, it has to be within that $40 million range.
Okay.
And let me get back to the article because Barney wrote this about you. He says this quote, Lewis currently serving his 24th year on council. He immediately surfaced as a voice for constituents when he was first elected, that is, in 1995. Lou, tell me this. What is the biggest difference between 1995 and right now as a city government official as you are?
Well, you have a more diverse neighborhood than you had in 1995. You have people moving from all parts of the country that's moving into District 3, and they see things differently that we might have seen it in the years back, and they don't know what it takes to run a city budget, and they think everything could just be done out of a $200 million budget, which is impossible. So they feel that the members of council and myself are not doing enough when it comes to addressing flooding. But if we had the money to solve the flooding, we would have to probably raise taxes 100%.
Now, theoretically, how much, I'm going to probably get in trouble for this, for the average person in District 3, how high will their tax go?
That's a question I couldn't answer. All taxes are lumped together, and we have no idea who paid how much taxes from what district. But I can tell you with a $200 million budget, if, and this is an if, someone would give us a figure, and they were throwing around a figure one time that would probably take $1 billion to solve the flooding problem of Charleston. So you can imagine if the taxpayers was willing to pay that, the taxes might double or triple.
Obviously, you talk a little bit about the process of city government. How does the city of Charleston government work in your mind?
Well, city government works pretty good because we are responsible for all the basic services. People vote for the president and people vote for the governor, but the persons that has the most adverse effect on your life is your local government. Your basic service, sanitation, parks, sidewalk, police, fire. If you're not providing those basic services, then the citizens is going to get angry because we can't meet their needs.
What needs and services does the citizens of District 3 need right now?
Well, I think it's not just District 3. I'm representing District 3. I'm representing District 3 on the City Council as a voice to speak up. But when you're talking about flooding, you talk about the city in general, because flooding affects everyone within the city. So you don't want to carve out a piece of district and saying this is this, but District 3 affects every other district in the city when it comes down to flooding.
Flooding. You talked earlier about your voice, and obviously Barney wrote this too in the Chronicle. He says this, quote, he says, it is imperative he has the platform, City Council office, to amplify that voice. How high will your voice go for the next 4 years if you're elected?
Well, I will continue. For one thing, we have employees in the city that has longevity. It's been here 15, 20, 25 years. Right. And I work hard to continue to advocate for them for higher pay. We have some employees in the city probably been there 10 to 15 years and recently had me making $10 an hour. So I've got with my council members, last year we got together and we decided we want to give the employees a raise to $12 an hour, but we are thinking hopefully within the next 3 to 4 years we could bring it up to 15 or more because we were losing employees in North Charleston, Charleston County, Mount Pleasant because they were paying higher pay more than the city. And it costs us every time we have to hire someone and train someone and then lose them. It costs more because of the money that we have to pay.
Hey. And, Barney also said this too. Lou is, well, I'm calling you Lou. Lewis is one of the 4 African Americans on the 12-member council. His district passes 8 neighborhoods that include much of northwestern peninsula and parts of West Ashley closest to the Ashley River, including Ashleyville, Maryville, and East Oak Forest and West Oak Forest. What is that future in the next 4 years?
I don't know because if you know Clinton, years ago we had 6 council members and now African Americans. And now there's only 4 districts. When the 2020 census come out next year, we just don't know whether we're going to have 4 in there or not. We might have to draw one up again. So it's just hard to tell, but that's how the districts are changing. That's how the makeup the city is changing. We have a great diversity of people that's moving in the city. People are moving from all sorts parts of this country because Charleston is one of the most sought after places to live in the United States.
Let me reread that again. He says this: his district encompasses 8 neighborhoods that include much of Northwestern Peninsula and parts of West Ashley, closest to the Ashley River, i.e. Ashleyville, Maryville, and East Oak Forest and West Oak Forest. Tell me this, Lou. If you were to talk to a citizen about the history of Maryville, Ashleyville, and Mount Pleasant Street, what would you tell them?
Mount Pleasant Street and the peninsula has been a mostly African American district, but has changed. Parts of my district downtown, Wagner Terrace, Hampton Park Terrace, one time yet back maybe 30, 40 years ago, was all white. They moved out and then become a mixed district. Now it's becoming more and more white. Parts of the west side, which I represent, and Gadsden Green, probably the most predominantly black district that I have. And that is changing a whole lot every day. West Oak Forest, East Oak Forest, Ashleyville, and Maryville. Maryville is changing a whole lot too. It's a big mixed district over there now. Ashleyville right now is still just about predominantly African Americans. But if you keep on looking at it and look at the makeup of the city, I think in another 3 or 4 years, that'll change a whole lot also.
And Barney wrote this as well. He says this too. You mentioned just a little bit earlier. You said this quote: "I've got to win this one for the few minorities left in the district." How many minorities are left in District 3?
That we can't. I think it's somewhere around 35 to 40%, if it's that high.
And you said too. Barney wrote this as well. But he's not only concerned for his black constituents. You said this quote: "A lot of people who work in the city can't afford to live in the city. The city was built on service jobs." Let me ask you this. If you are to be elected, once again, how many service jobs do you want to bring to District 3?
Well, if you look at the city of Charleston, now you don't have to bring any service job to the city because we have enough hotels, we have enough restaurants. You know, King Street once was a thriving business district, but now they call it the entertainment district. But these same people that has to serve these restaurants, these hotels, these people that have to clean and hospitals and the college, they're service jobs. College of Charleston, Medical U, the Citadel, they're service jobs. So we need to try to provide some housing for those working people. We are working on a few. Right now, the Housing and Community Development, along with City Council, we right now have a plan to build at least about 160 houses on the peninsula, and along with 180 place, that'll probably come up somewhere close to 200. But that's just a drop in the bucket because there's a great need out there, and it's very expensive to live downtown. I mean, where I'm sitting down talking to you right now, I bought this house here for $18,000. $18,000. If I were to sell this house today, I'd probably get $450,000. So that goes to show you how the cost of property, how the cost of land has changed in this city. So those folks just can't afford to live downtown.
Now, another question here. What is the cost of property and land in your district?
It's hard to say.
Okay.
Just like I just quoted just now, what I paid for this house probably triple or quadruple in the past 20, 25 years. I've had a developer to look at this property one time because I had it appraised and I thought it was underappraised. And he said, yes, he said, your house was underappraised because just the dirt worth $100,000. So you can imagine that just the dirt worth $100,000. What about the building and stuff on the dirt?
Obviously, you do not drive, but we see you walking and taking public transportation, and you are a big advocate of public transportation. Where do you see that in the future?
I think we're going to get better in public transportation. We're getting better. Right now, I'm on the Carter board.
Right.
We're replacing the fleet of buses, and I think by the end of this year or next year, we'll probably be done replace most of it. Carter, under the leadership of Ron Mitchum, was in a hole one time. Ron Mitchell was responsible for running CALL, which is Council of Governments, and he has stepped in to help Carter, and he has gotten Carter out of the hole where our budget now is in the black. So I think that we're going to move forward. The Road Advisory Committee will be getting together the first of the year, we'll be looking at the routes, and hopefully I am on the route advisory committee, and we'll make some recommendations to expand some of the routes and hopefully add some more routes.
Now, you just confirmed this just a few minutes ago when you were talking about flooding, but I had no idea that you grew up on Charleston's east side and now you live on the west side. Can you talk to me about James Lewis Jr. growing up on the east side?
But I moved on the east side when I was 11 years old. I born and raised on a street called Simmons Street,
Right.
Down up on the upper, I guess you would call it the north central area.
Right.
And we moved on Aiken Street on the east side when I was 11. Someone set the house on fire that we was living in. And I lived on the east side probably until I was probably 40 years old.
Wow.
I've been living over here probably about 30 years. I'm 70 now, so probably about 30 years. So I've seen a lot of changes. Charleston has made a whole lot of changes. It was a wonderful place to live when I was younger, and it's still good, but it still could be better.
Now, you talked about your age, and a lot of people I talk to say, oh, Mr. Lewis is a little too old for city council and all the changes that are going on in Charleston. When you hear that, Lou, what do you say?
Well, I've heard people say, well, he can't think about 25 or 35 years ahead. Well, we are thinking, but it's not he. I have to say we, because any decisions are made on city council floor, whether it's presented by a council member or by the mayor, it has to take 7 votes to get anything passed on city council. So we have to work as a team together to make sure that the city move forward.
And obviously, moving forward, you obviously do old school communication. How do you address the new age crowd and say, hey, this is how I communicate?
And I talk to them. I'm on Facebook.
Right.
I text.
Right.
You know, people say I'm old and fogey, but I does those things. But I'm not going to get out there like the younger generation and just put all kind of crazy things on Facebook. I use Facebook for certain things, and I need to find out something.
Find out something. What else should we find out when it comes to the future of District 3?
The future of District 3, if I'm elected for another 4 years, will continue to be a good district that everyone would love to live in, and I will work hard to make sure that the citizens of District 3 get as much as I can get out of City Council, out of the budget, to solve flooding, to do affordable housing, to bring in small businesses, whatever it takes to try to make citizens of District 3 happy. Because remember, you can't make everybody happy because everybody got different needs, but you try to do what you can do for the best of the city and its citizens.
The Honorable James Lewis Jr., thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups again.
Well, thank you again, Quintin, for having me, and I enjoyed the conversation, and I hope the citizens of District 3 is listening, because I do want you to vote that I could represent this district another 4 years.
Well, thank you for your time and good luck to you. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.